Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're taking on Wicked, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West, the novel by Gregory Maguire. We're going to be looking at how this book kind of like flips the script on the classic Oz story and really like reimagines who we think of as the good guys and the bad guys.
Yeah, it really delves into the character of Elphaba. She's the so-called Wicked Witch of the West. And I think what's really interesting is that Maguire asks us to look at, like, her motivations, her struggles. How did the world of Oz shape who she became,
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so much more than just, like, a simple retelling.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, we all grew up with the Wicked Witch as this like one-dimensional villain, right?
Yeah.
But Maguire really makes you think like, what if there's more to the story?
Right. And there is, like one of the things that Maguire does really well is challenge this idea of good versus evil. It's like those other books that have come out over the years, like Wide Sargasso Sea, where it's from the perspective of the so-called mad woman in Jane Eyre, or Grendel, which is told from the monster's point of view.
I love that book.
Yeah, it's and Maguire's playing with that same idea, but I think he takes it a step further.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about giving the villain a voice.
Yeah.
It's like really, really reimagining who she is as a person. Like instead of just, cackling and being wicked, we see her backstory. We see like the prejudice she faced because of her green skin and like how the way Oz is structured kind of pushes her to the edges of society.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it shows how all these forces in society can really shape someone, even someone who's like as powerful as Elphaba. She's an outcast right from birth.
Yeah.
And that experience of being different and being judged, being feared, it's so important to understanding why she makes the choices that she does.
So it's like we see her transform, right, from this like ostracized child into this like fighter for justice. It
Yeah.
makes you think about heroism in a different way, right?
Yeah, it really does. Like, you don't need a shining sword or a magic wand to be a hero.
Yeah.
It's about making those difficult choices and sticking to your beliefs, even when it's hard, even when people don't agree with you, even when it makes you unpopular. And that's, I think, what's so interesting about how Maguire redefines what it means to be heroic in this book.
Yeah, and it's not like this, simple hero's journey or anything. Elphaba is a hero, but she also has flaws. She makes mistakes, and that's what makes her so relatable. It's like it blurs the lines between like good and evil
Yeah.
and makes us question our own assumptions about those categories.
Exactly. Because when we start to, like, peel back those labels, good, bad, wicked, we see how complex she is. Like, she's this champion for people who are being oppressed, but she's also dealing with her own inner struggles, her own demons. And the world that she lives in, Oz itself, it's not this perfect fairy tale land that we might imagine.
Oh, yeah, no, totally. Like Maguire shows Oz as this like corrupt place, right? Where like people in power are abusing it and the truth is being twisted. And anyone who's different is silenced. And this isn't just like a background for Elphaba's story. It's like this is what pushes her to become who she is.
Absolutely. It's like she's not just rebelling because she feels like it. The injustices that she sees, the way that the powerful are taking advantage of others, that's what really fuels her. She's not just reacting to her own personal pain, but she's like reacting to the problems of the entire system.
Yeah. And it's so cool. It's like he uses this fantasy world to like hold up a mirror to our own world.
Yeah.
Like those injustices that she's fighting in Oz, they aren't that different from stuff that's happening in the real world. All that stuff about power struggles and prejudice and, people trying to silence others, it's all too familiar. That's so true.
Yeah.
And that's what makes her story so powerful, right?
Yeah.
Because she's this underdog and she's challenging the people in power. Like it makes you think about all those times in history when people have been called wicked or dangerous.
Yeah.
Just because they, dared to speak up.
It really makes you think twice about those labels we put on people, doesn't it? Like, think about the Salem witch trials or how different groups have been persecuted just for being different. It's like Maguire's reminding us that we don't always get the whole story, right? Like, history is written by the winners, and sometimes the stories we hear are biased or even completely wrong.
Yeah. It's like he's saying, hey, look closer. Don't just accept what you're told.
Yeah.
Like we need to look for those different perspectives. It's so easy to just fall into that us versus them kind of thinking.
Totally. And to like demonize anyone who doesn't fit into our little boxes. And, I think that's where the real power of this book comes in. Like, it's not just a fantasy story. It's like Maguire's making us think about our own assumptions and biases.
Exactly. It's like he's saying, hold on. What if the Wicked Witch isn't so wicked after all? What if the so-called heroes aren't so heroic? Like, it makes you reevaluate everything.
It definitely does. And it reminds us that things are usually more complicated than just black and white. And I think that's super important now more than ever. Like, we're constantly being told who to love and who to hate.
Oh, absolutely. Like, all the time.
It's like Maguire's showing us that there's always more to the story than we might see at first. You know, Elphaba's journey really forces us to face that complexity. And that's what makes Elphaba such a fascinating character. She's like the ultimate outsider. She doesn't fit in, she's judged, she's feared because she's different. But instead of letting that define her, she owns it. She embraces her power, her uniqueness, her wickedness, and she uses it to fight for what she believes in.
It's like super inspiring. It reminds us that even the people who are most misunderstood, most marginalized, they can still rise up and challenge the systems that are holding them down. Like, it's about finding your voice even when people try to silence you.
Exactly. She becomes a symbol of hope. Like, she shows us that we can fight back against injustice, even when it seems impossible.
So, like, what does all this mean for us, here and now? What can we learn from Elphaba's story and actually apply to our own lives?
Well, I think, like, one of the biggest things is it's about empathy.
Yeah.
You know, like, really trying to understand people who are different from us, the people that, maybe we'd normally be quick to judge.
Yeah, for sure. It's about, like, checking our own biases, like questioning the stories we've always been told and really trying to see things from other people's point of view. Because, everyone has their own story, their own reasons for doing what they do.
Right. Like, we all have our own struggles and stuff. It's like that saying, everyone's the hero of their own story.
Right.
I mean, Elphaba might be the villain in the like classic Oz story, but in her story, she's fighting for what she thinks is right. Absolutely. And when we actually make that effort to understand, to see the humanity in other people, even the people we might think of as like our enemies, that's when we can start to break down those walls, and create a world that's more just, more compassionate.
Yeah, a world where, like, everybody has a chance to be understood, to be heard, to be valued, no matter, like, how different they are. It's about, like, recognizing that complexity, right? Instead of just, like, slapping labels on people.
Totally. Yeah, and I think that's what makes Wicked such a powerful story, It's stayed with people all these years because it reminds us that things aren't always what they seem. And that, like, good and evil, those aren't easy categories, you know what I mean? And there's always more to the story.
Yeah, there really is. So as you guys go about your day, your week, your life, remember Elphaba. It's so cool. The Wicked Witch, it was so much more than that.
Yeah.
And let her story remind you to, like, question your assumptions and, to look for that humanity in everyone you meet.
Yeah, because you never know. The person you might be quick to judge, they might have a story that totally changes your perspective. Like,
Sure.
It could open your eyes to a whole new way of seeing the world.
Absolutely. And thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Wicked. We'll catch you next time for another exploration of some really cool ideas.